I've been like so happy that you've just been able to disappear for a little while.
It was nice. Too much
Probably
fun.
about this tall.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. You guys ready? Here we are.
Okay, gavel.
Welcome to the first meeting of the Lincoln City Council for 2019. This is Monday, January 7th. Let's all stand for a pledge of allegiance followed by a moment of silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you all for coming. I have a short statement to read. In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. The clerk will call, the order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item, should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those in opposition. The applicant may then make a short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, and whether they're speaking in favor of or in opposition to an item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the City Council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meeting of the month, immediately prior to the adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. And our next open session will be at our next meeting. So we're ready to start with the clerk at her convenience. Call the first item.
Yes, we ask those of the general public coming forward to testify to please clearly state your name, spell your name, give your address, and sign in on the sign-in sheet laying on the podium. Testifiers may use either microphone, and there is a sign-in sheet by each microphone. We ask city staff testifying to please state your name, title, and the department you work for. Our first item of business is a reminder that due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, the City Council will not meet on Monday, January 21st. Public hearing consent agenda items are 1 through 3. We have no appointments on there. Does anyone wish to come forward on items 1 through 3? All right, if not, we can vote on these items.
No one coming forward? Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Item 1A was introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved. Second.
You have a motion by Councilman Gaylord Baird, second by Councilman Eskridge, excuse me. Is there any discussion of the motion? Would you call the roll, please?
Raybold?
Yes.
Shob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Items 2A and B were introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion by Councilman Raybold, second by Councilman Eskridge. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Raybold?
Yes.
Shob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are public hearing liquor resolutions. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward and raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. I'll call items 4A and B together. They're the application of Shokunin for a Class I liquor license at 440 North 8th Street, Suite 150, and the related manager application of Min Park. Hi, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
Yes.
Thank you. Just state your name and address.
Min S. Park, 440 North 8th Street, number 150, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68502.
Good afternoon, Mr. Park. Thanks for coming forward. Tell us a little bit about why you're asking for a license here. Tell us about your application.
Yes, I opened the new Japanese cuisine restaurant, and then we're serving with the Japanese cuisine, sushi sashimi with some sakes. It's for traditionally, so I applied the legal license for that.
I understand. That sounds like fun. Questions from the council? Seeing no other questions, thank you very much. You can return to your seat. Was anyone else in the audience like to testify on this agenda item? Seeing no one coming forward, Madam Clerk, could we move to the next one?
Yes, I'll call items 4C and D together. They're the application of Dan Mac, Inc., doing business as Tam O'Shanter for a Class C liquor license at 105 South 25th Street, and the related manager application of Karen Gray. Not Karen. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes.
Thank you. Just state your name and address.
Karen Gray, 105 South 25th, Lincoln 68510.
Hi, Ms. Gray. Thanks for coming. Tell us about your application. Tell us what's going on with Tam O'Shanter.
Just purchased it. Want to try to carry on that Lincoln tradition, bring it back to life.
Thank you. Are there questions from the council? Councilman Eskridge.
Maybe John Camp can answer this, but I'll ask you. You talked about the tradition. The Tam O'Shanter's been there a long time.
45 years.
45 years.
Yeah, it was technically 45 years in November, and then hopefully we'll be organized enough to have it, we're going to do a celebration in January. Well, I guess it is January, but soon.
Okay, great.
So starting lunches again next Monday.
Okay.
So,
good.
yeah, we're going to bring back our lunches on Monday.
Nice. I've had many a good meal and maybe a beverage or two there. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's a different beverage menu than what we have up the street.
Oh, really?
So,
No axes, though. You aren't throwing axes.
no,
Okay.
no axes. Gosh, no, please no.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions from the council? Thank you very much. You return to your seat. Madam Clerk, what's our next item? 4E?
Last, then, we have 4E, manager application of Brian Farber for Walmart 3823 at 3400 North 85th Street. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Just state your
Barber,
name.
resident 6400 Monarch Drive in Lincoln, 68516.
Thank you, Mr. Farber. I appreciate you coming this afternoon. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with you and Walmart at 3823.
For myself, just to get the liquor license in the manager's name, to transfer from the other previous store manager into my name.
I understand. Are there questions for this applicant from the City Council? Well, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to testify on this agenda item? Thank you very much.
Seeing none, Mr. Chair, I'd move approval of items 4A, B, C, D, and E.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Camp and a second by Councilman Eskridge. Discussion of the motion. Teresa, when you're prepared, please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you.
Next then are public hearing resolutions. Item 5A is approving the labor contract between the city and Lincoln City Employees Association, or LCEA, for a term effective August 23rd, 2018 through August 31st, 2020.
Good afternoon, Council. Doug McDaniel, Human Resources. This labor contract is introduced as a 2-year agreement back to August 23rd of 2018, spanning through August 31 of 2020. Economic highlights, 2.5% increase for the first year and 2.5% increase for the second year. We made a slight adjustment in comp time from 40 hours to 60 hours. We increased the sick leave payout in this contract for retirees and those by death, and we increased the contribution to the post-employee health plan as well. Other than that, there were some language changes also for operational purposes. I'll be happy to address any questions I might be able to.
Are there questions from the council? Councilwoman Gaylor Baird.
Thank you. Doug, were these changes that are being implemented through the contract taken into account when we voted on the budget earlier this summer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all are within the budget guidelines.
Okay.
Councilman Camp.
Overall, do you have a dollar figure on what the various increases will add up to each year?
We do. I didn't bring that with me, and then we're always cautious about releasing that publicly because it then pertains to a value of percent, which is something we try to keep close to our side for negotiating purposes. But yes, we do have that.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from the council? Daniel, thank you. Is anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this agenda item? Seeing no one coming forward,
All right, next is item 5B, Comp Plan Conformance 18018, approving an amendment to the Lincoln Center redevelopment plan to add the Lead Place Residences redevelopment project on property generally located at 1133 Q Street. This project includes demolition of existing improvements on the site and construction of a 20-story mixed-use building.
Members of the City Council, David Landis, Urban Development Department Director, the applicant in this case. This is a project that perhaps you've seen in our newspaper, bandied across the front page several weeks ago. This part of the process is whether or not the council agrees that this project general description should be added to our downtown Lincoln plan, so that when there is a redevelopment agreement, and that will be forthcoming, we hope, by the end of this month, is consistent with that plan and an appropriate extension of the downtown plan. This is a 20-story building at $30 million of cost, $5 million of which is TIF, $25 million is private investment. The first floor is designed for a 3,000-foot restaurant, square-foot restaurant. Second, third, and fourth floors are for commercial and office space. And then the remaining floors, from the 5th through the 20th floor, are residential, 1, 2, and potentially 3-bedroom locations, although mostly 1 and 2. The building faces north. The south side of the building is in fact a corridor, but there is attention to make sure that there's windows on all sides of the building. And there is attention being played on our part as we discuss the project with the developer about the streetscape, particularly on Q Street. This is the project area, and this, I think I need to do this. Dallas McGee always tells me I put my maps upside down. This is north. Here's the Lead Center. Here's Q Street. And this little indentation, which has existed since the construction of the garage in 1999, as I recall. No, it's earlier than that. 1994, thank you, that's right. So this little notch has been there until about the building of the Applebee's restaurant in about the year 2000. It was there for 13 years. It's closed and has been for 5 years. It was a 1-story building. At the time that this project, the garage, was contemplated, the university and the Lead Center asked of the city, could we find a way to face the garage with a building so that we would not have an unadorned section of a garage, an unfinished wall. This is the rare occurrence where that exists above Applebee's. That we will satisfy the request of the university and the Lead Center 20-some years late, but we're going to get there with this project. There will be changes currently that will affect, we think, the landscaping and streetscaping of the area. We anticipate that there will be bump outs on these portions, the south portions of Q Street. It'll make for pedestrian crossings that are easier and more friendly. The sidewalk will be expanded on that block face, which will make the pedestrian experience more valuable. And we hope in the end to have a beautiful building, the second tallest in the downtown area, that will be a credit to downtown. The architecture and engineering is coming from Atlanta, from a well-known architecture company there that's designed and constructed high-rise buildings throughout the country. The Planning Commission heard this and voted unanimously on its behalf, so has the planning staff weighed in, and their recommendation is positive on the question of this fitting the downtown plan and if this is an appropriate addition to that plan. It is multi-use, it is residential, and it adds to the vitality of a 24/7 downtown. The developers here, pretty darn proud of their project, as are we, and they'll be happy to talk to you as well, but of course I'd answer whatever questions you might have for me.
Councilwoman Lamb.
Thank you. So you mentioned multi-use, so could you explain that just in a little more detail?
Sure. Top part residential, 3 floors of office, and first floor of a restaurant. It would be possible, depending on where you worked, to live above the place that you work and eat at the first floor, and then park in the garage next door, which is, by the way, it's one of the virtues of multi-use buildings, is by mixing residential and office space, you get people to be able to walk to work, which is then good for infrastructure and the fighting sprawl in the city.
And my next question is, you mentioned that there were windows all around, but does that include the that part of the building that abuts the parking, or just above the parking garage?
The south side of this building does not look like this.
Right.
South side of this building does have windows. There are windows here and here.
Wait, we don't, now we got it.
Oh, okay.
The image wasn't up for us.
You might see, okay, thank you. You might see the little indications of windows on the east and west side.
Okay.
Some on the south, but that's essentially a corridor. Okay. But you do want some sunlight. But the face of the building is this side.
Okay, and so you meant wrap around.
Different. Yes, this does not wrap around in that style all the way.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council? Councilman Eskridge.
Yeah, Mr. Landis, one thing I notice a lot is when there are lead center events, that there is a long stream of traffic that's on Q Street turning into the Q Place parking garage. How will this impact that?
I asked Wayne Mixdorf his best guess, and he said he didn't think it would have an impact. There will be a left-hand turn. The distance between the corner and the access points won't change. So the experience that you have now will be the experience that you have after that. The turn will in fact be a little bit further north, so there'll be more stacking space on this side, because there will be a treatment to the sidewalk. We'll be moving to the north. It'll make a modest change. Don't expect the parking experience to be different. We don't think it will be.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Raybold.
Could you talk a little bit about the architectural elements on, I guess, the south-facing side? What is that going to look like?
There will be windows, but they aren't the frontispiece of an apartment. They're just the corridor. I'll bring you, when we have the redevelopment agreement, some pictures to that effect. I can tell you that the project has twice been to the Urban Design Committee, and in both cases received very positive framework.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Gaylord Baird.
Thanks, Mr. Landis. I have a couple questions. Could you discuss the impact on Q Place parking garage stall availability?
Thank you.
What you anticipate is the impact for?
Sure. There will be an impact. And although that's not enumerated today, it will be in the redevelopment agreement. And at this point, we're talking about 100 stalls, 60 of which are residential and will be high up in the garage, and 40 of which will be any place in the garage for commercial users. The time that it'll take for this building to build, which is 2 years plus, will create the ability to have attrition in the use of the garage. We do not anticipate that we would at any time ask an existing user to absent the garage. We're not going to do that, but planning ahead in the patterns that we see when the garage is called upon to absorb parking elements for the building, it will be able to do so. It is true that the system downtown is highly used, and there's 2 or 3 things that one can say about that. First, we will be drawing into the city system in the event this parking strategy that we want to pursue, and that we have gone a portion of the way down with the council does. It will bring into the city control a total of about 1,200 stalls. Some of those stalls exist, but some of those stalls will be disappearing if we don't do this. That will give us some more resources. But it is not uncommon for cities with a B4 status to ask a special impact fee from the businesses that are there for parking. It's not uncommon. We have a system, and to the extent that we have bonding capacity, we'll use that bonding capacity for the needs that we might have where they are located now. We don't have an open-ended checkbook that will be open forever on that bonding capacity. And so we will be making serious investments in this area and perhaps one other area, whether that's, we've heard it talked about in the capital area, we've heard it talked about in the south of Haymarket area, but that we will be at the end of our resources to add stalls to the city system on the far end of the, I would say, the next 2 decisions about parking structures.
And what are the impacts of that height to downtown neighbors? Do you have information for us? Any questions from residents downtown?
We haven't.
Is Carl going to lose his view? You know, all the things.
I just stopped David Carey in the halls as well, saying, were there any emails? Was there any impact on the Planning Commission? The answer is no. We haven't heard it either. There is an impact with a neighbor that we will be addressing, but that's the Hewitt Place area where the Great Plains Museum is at the other end of the block. During the construction period, there'll be access problems because the sidewalk will be closed, and that'll be for a substantial time. So we meet with them next week to discuss what the schedule impact is and what their concerns are. To the extent that we know of reaction, that's the one that we know about.
Okay. And you mentioned UNL previously and the request being fulfilled all these years later. The staff report also mentions that this project will better tie the University of Nebraska to downtown. What does that mean? What's the vision there? How does it better tie them? And is it just fulfilling the request, or is there something more about this project that links the two?
Remember, it's residential. It brings people down there, and they're users of the Leeds Center. They may well be donors. In that perspective, the university has wanted to have places where people can live and visit close to the university. This does that. Have I had a particular conversation with a university executive about the project? The answer is no.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Camp first thing.
Yes, Mr. Landis, thank you. A moment ago, you said something about as parking got limited down the road, there might be some type of a user impact fee or what?
I'm just telling you what other cities in our situation do. Here's one of the things we do that's unique or different. We say parking downtown is a civic. You don't, in other words, you don't have a private developer obligation in the downtown area. Everywhere else you do, but you don't in the downtown. That's been our long-standing policy. And to that extent, certainly there are a number of cities that do that, but it's also not the norm. The norm is things like parking authorities, impact fees, assessments that vary. If the developer provides all of their own parking, there is no fee. If they provide half the parking, there's a fee for that. And if they have no parking, then they pay 100% of those fees. Those are tools that other cities do because parking rarely pays for itself. It's expensive, as you know. Lincoln is remarkable in the extent that we are in the black. We are making money and we're putting it in reserves even now. But that's not common or the norm in many cities.
Perhaps you need to review this with us later, but with the B4 designation and our zoning rules and so forth, it would seem like you've set a precedent there that to go back and change that down the road if we needed to. Do you have a problem or?
No. Well, what you can't do, the system that we have will yield a certain amount of resources. And you'll be able to translate those resources into parking. And you're asking me right now, where's the new parking from, or what is the impact of the parking? And our system, because of our growth downtown and the like, even though it's been out of the JPA, that system is highly utilized. The mechanism that we use to fund new parking will be utilized in the coming years. In the event Lincoln continues to grow at the rate it does now, there will be a time in the future when the mechanism to pay for that parking won't exist beyond what it is now, and there will be increased demand. And then we don't have a parking we won't be able to afford a parking strategy that adds 1,200 stalls to the system. So somebody on the city council and some future mayor will have a very interesting problem on their hands.
Councilwoman Lamb, you had your hand up for.
I do, thank you. So I recently became aware of some studies that were conducted down in the downtown and Haymarket area during events that showed that there was a lot of unused parking actually during the events, and I think that probably is because a lot of people are just reluctant to park in a garage if they can help it. So has there been any kind of a study like that on Q Place to know when there's an event at the Lead Center, how many empty spaces there are there now?
Q Case has a tendency to fill up, but what we know from our experience is that you can have a sold-out Lead Center and there's still parking available at the Larson Building a block away.
But are you saying that there's no parking available at the Q Place when there's...
There might be some modest amount of parking. It has I'll be happy to ask or come back when the redevelopment agreement here is and lay that out for you with maybe some statistics.
Okay.
I'd have to just tell you, I go to Lead Center events, and I'm quite often as high up in that garage as it takes to find a parking stall. What is the case, however, remember, when we talk about demand for parking, a good deal of that is for employment parking. We have an active downtown. There are jobs downtown. People fill up garages. But at night, not all the garages are filled. So we have transient parking at night. And the Lead Center has this very obvious garage, but it has quite proximate to a garage that's not filled even when the Lead Center is.
Thank you.
Just off of that, it's been my observation, there's usually one available where someone parked across the line and they didn't quite get in. So there's usually, and it's just
and we're going to get their name.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too narrow for my car to fit in.
It's a motorcycle spot.
It's a motorcycle spot? Thank you. Are there others that would like to testify on this agenda item?
Mr. Chair, members of the council, my name is Tom Houston. My address is 233 South 13th Street, Suite 1900 here in Lincoln. Appearing before you today on behalf of Lead Place, LLC. With me is Tam Allen, the developer and one of the principals of Lead Place. The issue on your agenda today is really whether or not this project, the Lead Place project, would support and justify an amendment to the Lincoln Center redevelopment plan, and whether or not that plan amendment itself is consistent with the general plan of development for the community. I cite to you 3 points out of the staff report I think are relevant, starting on page 2. The first, the analysis of the 2040 L plan, where the downtown is really promoted as a vibrant mixed-use neighborhood offering choices for all residential lifestyles. I think that downtown comprehensive plan indicated that anticipated more than 3,000 dwelling units be located in the downtown area during that term of that plan. And the focus of the comprehensive plan certainly does bring additional dwelling units into the downtown area. I'd also point out to you that staff report was written before the adoption of the 2018 Downtown Master Plan, which is really a sub-area plan to the comprehensive plan. And certainly the focus of that Downtown Master Plan is to increase the housing options in the downtown area. And this project will, as indicated, bring 40 condominium units for purchase, not a rental project, but for purchase in the downtown area. And the last thing I would say on consistency is that this project is consistent with the original vision for this site. As originally designed, this notched area in the Q Place parking garage was really envisioned for a downtown housing tower, and that did not happen 25 years ago, so it's nice to see it to come to fruition. The other thing I would point out to you is that the plan amendments in front of you is a little bit different because of some changes in the law. It happened in 2018, and the requirement that we focus more on the cost-benefit analysis. And the cost-benefit analysis, according to community development law, really requires analysis of 5 different points. The first of which is the tax shift that the potential tax shift, this project would create incremental value in excess of $25 million, which would create an incremental tax of approximately $510,000 per year. The plan amendment envisions capturing that incremental tax amount for a period of 14 years, and most projects can only capture increment for 14 years. To reimburse the developer for those eligible costs, we envision here site acquisition, facade enhancements, and the streetscape improvements in the Q Street right-of-way. The second point to analyze under the cost-benefit analysis is whether there's going to be any impact on public infrastructure. This project will involve decreasing the right-of-way, decreasing the lanes available in Q Street from 5 down to 4. Public Works was very amenable to that concept and make better use of that right-of-way adjacent on the north side of the building. This project would also enhance the usage of the Q Street parking garages as part of the public infrastructure. The third point to analyze is whether or not there will be any impact on employers and employees. The only thing that I can really see is that it would provide additional housing opportunities for employees in the downtown area, which is certainly one of the objectives of all of the plans that we have. The fourth item to analyze is whether or not there's any impact on employment outside of the downtown area, and I could not find any anticipated adverse impact for that perspective. And the last item that was just added in 2018 does require an analysis on whether or not the project would have any impact on student populations, and we believe that this project would have little, if any, impact on LPS student populations. It's really designed for downtown empty nesters and young professionals that would be residing in these units. As Director Landis indicated, this project was in front of the Urban Design Committee in early December. We're back in Urban Design Committee again tomorrow to talk to them about specifically the streetscape and the materials that are going to be used on the facade. And it was this plan amendment was in front of the Planning Commission back in December also. So with that, I would ask for your support of the comprehensive plan conformance issue for the downtown master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for this testifier? Councilwoman Gaylor Baird.
Thanks, Tom. I just had a question actually about the map of the area that's included in the staff report, and maybe you don't have that image.
I don't have that material, but
the redevelopment area that's being added to the larger redevelopment plan, and perhaps this is a question for staff, sorry, it includes the alley, which is not adjacent to this structure, but is adjacent to the parking garage. I was just curious if there are intended improvements there.
That was really designed in case we needed to relocate a sanitary sewer line or need sanitary sewer access from there, and it was discovered that we did not need that. But I think that's a good practice to include the right-of-way as a part of the downtown, as part of any redevelopment plan area.
Okay. Do you have a sense on the impact of this to any of the adjacent properties downtown? Have you had conversations about the height, given that it is going to be one of the taller?
Yeah, I think it'll have a dramatic impact on the skyline of downtown Lincoln, but I think it'll have a beneficial impact on the skyline of downtown Lincoln. The height limitation in this area is 275 feet. This project's approximately 215 to 220 feet, so it's well below the height limitation. But we think it will provide a nice, certainly a very attractive building adjacent to the university campus and provide a nice bridge to that university campus. So there will be people south of it that probably won't be able to see as far north, but I think that happens with a growing city.
Mm-hmm. And with the first floor restaurant potential, have you gotten a lot of interest in potential interest in the project? And I'm not asking for specifics necessarily, but generally because we've had other projects downtown where the first floor is vacant, or that's been a stumbling block for the project going forward.
Activating first floor space is a real challenge. I think that the developer here envisions that it will take a special project to really utilize that first floor space effectively as a restaurant use, and I think the developer envisions that they want to be very patient, find the right use, and actually make sure that it's going to work, structure the lease appropriately so it will work. I think that's the intent.
Thank you.
Councilman Camp.
Yes, with the drawing that's before us there, Mr. Houston, we've had a previous project there on the Misty's old Chamber of Commerce building. Is there an overlap at all on the redevelopment areas? And this might be more of a Mr. Landis question or not. I was kind of remembering that alley there also had some
I think that the Kindler Hotel project is really on this corner, and I would imagine it does include some of that right-of-way of the
I
alley.
thought they were having a walkway across to the garage, and
And we
do
find
you have
that-
any problems overlapping like that, or maybe at least explain
There are
to
some
us?
overlaps. The alley appears in both situations. There's some section of right-of-way, I think, on 11th Street that might be an overlap as well. So yes, there has been an overlap.
And I think we do that frequently to make sure that we get the work done in the right-of-way that is specific to a redevelopment project.
For some reason, I was thinking we didn't allow the overlap, that it, maybe we'll get a legal opinion here.
Yes.
Oh, Abby Luttrell from the Law Department. If it's not city right-of-way, we would never want an overlap because then the taxes would be divided twice. But since we're in public right-of-way and it's not taxable, then we're okay with the overlap. So that might be where the confusion is.
Thank you, Ms. Luttrell. Mr. Camp, did you have other questions?
Yep, no, that was it. Thank you.
Other questions from the council?
I think we are nearing completion of a redevelopment agreement. I think we intend to have it introduced next week, the 14th, and with your vacation on the 21st of January, we'll be back in front of you on the 28th, we plan to. So we can answer more questions if you have them then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Is anyone in the audience that would like to, anyone else would like to testify on this item?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, my name's Tam Allen. I'm the developer of the project. I'm also a principal of the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know there's going to be another time that I'll be in front of you, but love to talk about the project. It's been a long process. I think I've become an expert on it because whenever you have that, we've been working on it for a number of years, and so anything that questions you'd have, I would love to address.
Questions from the council? Councilman Eskridge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Allen, and it is something that I think that downtown has been needing, so I appreciate your prolonged interest in bringing this across. A few people raised the issue of the backside, and since the backside's kind of all of the rest of downtown, can you explain a little bit about how that will be treated, what that will look like?
I wish we had the picture here of the backside, because actually we paid a lot of attention to the backside in order for it to...
Could I make a suggestion? You just call it the south side, not give it a bad name.
Backside,
because I think south side is going to have a nice facade regardless.
The south side, of course. We're incorporating some of the same patterns. We're incorporating a number of things, and I look forward to showing you that. But in an answer to the question as far as earlier on with windows on the back side, since it's such a narrow property.
South side.
South side.
That increases the price you can sell those condos for.
That's right. Since the south side, since it's such a narrow property on depth-wise, is if you can envision, it's a single loaded hallway. There's only a maximum of 3 units on each floor. The 2 end units actually wrap around, and there would be some windows on the backside that would.
Is that page 24, Mr.
There you
Houston?
go.
South side.
Okay.
Wait for it. There we go.
So, as you can see, incorporating the same as far as the same panels, and they will match. It doesn't look like it here, just because of the difference in the copy. But these are actually end unit windows on the south side over here. This is actually a hallway up in this area, and of course we have to be a certain amount over the parking structure on the side. So it just won't be the beautiful south side of our building is not an afterthought, and we're also being very careful on the materials that we're using.
Great. Are there balconies?
No.
Okay. Rooftop space?
I'm
or
too
something?
narrow. I had a conversation with former Mayor Mike Johans, who was mayor at this time, and I was saying, my gosh, how did this happen? It was, and I think it was explained, is how the lead center stakeholders and the university wanted to be able to have a nicer face. As a matter of fact, that's the only unadorned face of a parking garage in any modern City of Lincoln parking garages. And he said, we wanted to leave that space cut out there, and I wish he could have, my comment was, could he made it a little deeper, because I think balconies and different things would be there, but no, we will not have any, so.
All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Raybold.
And the penthouse, is it going to be community space for the residents and office users?
It's been a big question. Because of limitations, again, on the size of that, is that we are not planning to do that at this time, because we've got a lot of it for our mechanical area to be on top, and that shielded area up there, so you will not be able to see any of the mechanicals. Not that you would from any street level anyway, but we've got a lot of things going on up there, and there's not that much space left available. Councilwoman Baird, you had the question. I got to answer the question. On the restaurant space on the first floor, we have all seen is developments is, you know, with the space set aside is for spaces to be that, and with mixed results on that. And also, I have a tremendous amount of respect for quality restaurant operators, and it's very difficult for operators to do that at market rents or higher rents on that. And the ownership group, we're actually going to retain the first floor, and we are treating it as an amenity of the not only the building but the neighborhood, and we're trying to keep control of it because we're in essence going to try to subsidize for the right operator. And there has been a number of people that have been interested, but we got a little ways on this journey. Matter of fact, I have still more meetings with people doing that, and so we've been very heartened by the interest on that. But there will be a restaurant there. It will be a good, well operated restaurant. It's not going to be parking, as sometimes that you see on first floor spaces. So.
It's great to hear, because it not only benefits this project, it actually benefits all the other projects downtown. The more people are living, the more opportunities, the greater the likelihood of other success down the street. So thank you.
Well, when you and I come out of the Lead Center, I've done that on a cold, windy, and you're sort of thinking, and you can go around the corner to the, you know, the Misty's a terrific place. There's other places, but I think it would be another nice place as far as to gather at that time, and hopefully during the daytime.
Thank you. Other questions from the council? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Would anyone else in the chamber like to speak on this agenda item? I see people. Yep. I think it's your turn. Oh, the picture? Yeah.
Actually, can I ask Tom Tom, could you field another question, Mr. Houston?
Yes.
It came up in the Planning Commission, and it's important, I think, for everyone to hear more about the different price points, because housing affordability is an issue. And could you talk about what's envisioned for this particular project in terms of the rates for these units?
Obviously, this isn't. It will present an ownership opportunity, and people will be able to buy units, which is not highly available in downtown. It's pretty unique in that regard. And if you can envision, there are probably 4 floors, 5 floors that exist below the top of the parking garage that will not have windows on the side. They'll be more moderately priced units. The units that have the better views up top would be the more premium priced units. But there will be a mixture of types of pricing and the price points on those units based upon proximity and based upon amenity, based upon size. And the one thing that's unique about the structure that it's, and Tam is certainly better than I am in explaining it, but it's a post-tension concrete structure that will allow a lot of flexibility interior on how it can be configured, and units can expand and contract so they can be sized appropriately. So from that perspective, I think that we expect the predominance of 1-bedrooms and studios and 2-bedrooms, but there will be a mixture of some 3-bedrooms where people wanted larger units, and that can be accommodated. So there will be a mixture of units.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I've already asked for questions from the chamber, so we're ready to move on to voting on this resolution. Yeah, yes.
Item 5A is the labor contract with LCEA, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Gaylor Baird, a second by Councilman Eskridge. Discussion of the motion? Please call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. 5B was Comp Plan Conformance 18018, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Gaylor Baird, second by Eskridge. Discussion? Whoa, got two hands at the same time there. I'll go with Councilman Christensen first.
This is a good thing.
Oh, I should have went with you second. Yeah, Councilwoman Gaylor Baird.
And I know we'll be having discussions about this project in the future as the redevelopment agreement comes forward, but this is comp plan conformance, and as discussed, this meets the comp plan in so many ways, whether it's density, the mixed use, the active first floor, the streetscape enhancements, so clearly conforms.
You could have just said this is a good thing.
Yeah, I could have.
I'm going to cut it there and say, would you call the roll, please?
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Next then are our public hearing ordinances second reading. Item 6A, amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter M by creating the classification of Superintendent of Stormwater.
Doug McDaniel, Human Resources. This is a new classification we bring to you on behalf of Transportation Utility Department, Superintendent of Stormwater.
Just say that there's some agreement on the council that sounds like a new superhero or maybe a character from Harry Potter. No?
Oh.
No one else thinks so?
It might.
I know.
We
This end thinks so.
We hadn't considered that, but we could probably revise the class if you give me a second. So. But the Superintendent of Stormwater, we've seen stormwater and watershed management expand throughout the years. And this has been filled by the incumbent, who is in a senior engineer classification. The division has risen to the area of the other divisions within transportation and utilities, and so this is an internal equity issue. I'll let Donna Garden speak to the specifics of the superhero. Okay.
Is there a cape for this person?
Yeah, there should be.
Go on, let's just.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Donna Garden. I'm the Assistant Director of Lincoln Transportation Utilities. We are actually looking at making this position very similar to our other superintendents that we have on the utilities side of the house. This position is a high-level manager that does all of the things that those other superintendents do, including budget, master planning, capital improvement programs, stormwater bond monitoring, and actual proposals. But more importantly, does a lot of work for the community, and considering all of the work they do, reviewing developer plans, making sure drainage is adequate for those new developments, very important for us. We also have a permit that we monitor and are responsible for with our municipal separate storm sewer system permit. And we have a floodplain management program that's very important to our public, in that we maintain a very good rating with our CRS to make sure those flood insurance payments are low.
Thank you. Questions for either of these testifiers? Councilman Camp.
Well, talking about superheroes and everything, is this creating more bureaucracy? Are you getting more and more layers here within the expanded?
This does not add any FTEs. We're actually just renaming and reclassifying because of the types of things that this position actually does. This makes it more fit the program, actually what they're doing out there. So we're reclassifying it to make it consistent with the other superintendents and the other utility divisions.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Well, seeing none, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And is there anyone else who would like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing no one, shall we go to 6? Nope.
That concludes our public hearing, actually. We just had the one.
Yeah.
We can go into the voting session now with ordinance's third reading. Item 7A is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter M by creating the classification of Facilities Operations Coordinator, introduced by Eskridge.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Eskridge and second by Councilwoman Raybold. We also have a motion to amend.
Yes.
Move motion to amend number 1, which is to correct the pay range designation.
Waiting for a second on the motion to amend. Thank you. I'm going to go with Councilman Christensen. Motion by Councilwoman Gaylor Baird, second by Councilman Christensen to amend. Discussion of the motion to amend? Seeing no discussion, would you call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Now to our amended motion, ordinance. See, yeah, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Do you want me to call the vote?
We have a motion by Eskridge and second by Raybold, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes. Any additional discussion? I would like you to call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next is item 7B, amending section 10.14.360 of the Lincoln Municipal Code to provide that children up to 8 years old transported in a motor vehicle shall be in a child passenger restraint system, and that children up to 2 years old be in a rear-facing child passenger restraint system, introduced by Eskridge.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Eskridge, second by Councilman Christensen. Discussion? Councilwoman Lamb.
Thank you. Just so that the public knows that we had hearing on this a couple weeks ago, so it's been a little while.
Yeah.
And basically, this is to bring our code into compliance, or it'll comport with new state law about child seating for safeties.
Other comments? Would you call the roll, please?
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Resolutions on first reading are items 8A through H. Ordinances first reading are items 9A through D. Our pending list are items 11A through C.
Mr. Chair, I move for adjournment.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilman Camp and second by Councilwoman Raybold to adjourn. Would you call the roll, please?
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Camp? Christensen?
Yes.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
We are adjourned.